For thousands of years, the vast desert lands of southern Jordan have carried the hopes and destinies of mankind. As far back as the Bronze and Iron Ages, people have chosen to live and die in the high, fertile valleys around Karak. For the most part, their stories are lost forever in the mists of time. But there is one story that has endured the ages. A story that began more than 800 years ago, when strangers from foreign kingdoms from far, far away arrived to claim these lands as their own. And quite a claim it was, for these invaders built Karak Castle. The name Karak Castle is inscribed on the Mecha obelisk in the Louvre Museum in Paris, and the castle was built on the site of an earlier Al-Ma'abin castle. With its commanding position more than 1,000 meters above sea level and protected on three sides by high slopes that plunge down to the Wadi Karak below, the defensive strengths of Karak have made it an important strategic asset to civilizations through the ages. But there's more to Karak's impregnable location than defences. It also lies close to an important ancient trade route. Known as the King's Highway, merchant traders passing through these lands could be more easily controlled and taxed by the long line of rulers who have lived in Karak down the centuries. The fortress we see today, rising above the land like some grand, majestic ship sailing on a sea of stone, is tangible evidence that the history of this area has not always been peaceful. But before we explore the castle and the rich and colourful stories of battles between Muslim and Christian crusaders that helped forge this castle, let's go back even further in time to look for evidence of what humans were up to here long before the Europeans arrived.
The first human beings to see the potential of southern Jordan were hunter-gatherers who came out of Africa about 1.8 million years ago. In Neolithic times, from about 10,500 years BC, there's evidence of the beginnings of cultivation and animal domestication. Flints and arrowheads have been found from this period. By 6,500 BC, the first small villages have been recognised east of Karak. The land was populated by farmers, but some began to mine copper and use it as a trade commodity.
It's against this colourful background that the most important and best recorded chapter of Karak Castle's history begins, with the arrival of the European Christian Crusaders in the early 12th century.
But what were the Christian Crusades all about? What sparked them? And why did they come to the Levant, the place in the east where the sun rose each morning?
In the 11th century, Europe was politically and economically fractured. Lawlessness and poverty were widespread, and for most there was no foreseeable way out. With Western Europe struggling, the Roman Catholic Church in Rome saw a huge opportunity to put itself at the centre of power and influence in the region. They did it by offering Christians a seductive alternative to their daily strife. No less than a guarantee of life everlasting by fighting for God and the Catholic Church. This plan did not just appear out of thin air, though. For centuries, Christian pilgrims had made their way through Europe by foot and by donkey to Byzantine Anatolia, controlled by Eastern Orthodox Christians, and on to Jerusalem. But in 1071, Muslim Turks defeated a Byzantine army at Manzikert and began to occupy the entire region east of Constantinople.
The expansion of Islam and the Arab Empire through the Middle East and into Turkey during the 11th century was also causing alarm in the Christian church.
The loss of lands to Muslim expansionists in the Christian Byzantine area helped to spur anger and resentment against Muslims. Rome was persuaded by the Eastern Orthodox Church of the Byzantines that this expansion was a direct threat to the safe passage of Christian pilgrims.
After the Christian occupation of Jerusalem on July 15, 1099, the Holy City became the capital of the Christian kingdom. During the first decades of the 12th century, this kingdom expanded rapidly to include the whole of Palestine, South Lebanon, and land east of the River Jordan. Now, this land they called Outre-Jourdain, or Transjordan. It was of strategic importance, commanding, as it did, the land route between Muslim Syria and Egypt. In 1115 AD, Baldwin decided to move his borders eastwards. To secure the new boundaries, Baldwin began building castles and establishing Frankish immigrant settlements in the area. The castle at Aschelbach was the first to be built, which Baldwin named Montreal. It was designed to house all classes of people in times of trouble, from knights to sergeants to ordinary townsfolk, and so we can assume that the same would be true at Karak.